Sweet. So, hey everyone, I'm Taras, and today we're going to go over some of the highlights of this week in autonomy. So I kind of did a deep dive in terms of last Friday's lecture, and I tried to dig in and take a lot of notes with last week's lecture, and then I did a bit with last night's also. Not as focused on that or on the Q&A, but I also dug into some of the events that were going on this week. So I want to report on that. So the first thing was the lecture from the 13th, our lovely Friday the 13th, which was the elements of entrepreneurship. So with that, we started off with the sales funnel, which was Joshua Hale's pre-recorded presentation, since he's over at the Exit and Build Summit. So he delivered that pre-recorded, and it sort of went over what was going on as far as the autonomy sales funnel and the strategy that we are using to get folks into the course, the marketing strategy. And then I had a couple of slides that I wanted to highlight from the lecture. So I don't know if we want to keep to 2 slides max. I know that was a suggestion, but otherwise I had 3 slides that I really liked. So I wanted to bring those up. I think that's right over here. All right. So if I go back to my Trello notes, I've got slide 58 on how to avoid overlearning. So I thought this was a really cool, powerful thing. It's something that I'm experiencing. So I'm going through the autonomy class. I'm also involved with Wealth Battle and some of Tom Woods' stuff. So there's a lot going on. I work a lot of hours, 45 hours a week. I've got my martial arts practice that I do and a lot of other stuff that I'm involved in. So it's easy for me to overlearn. And really what I took away from this particular section of the lecture is taking action to avoid overlearning. And that ties into the trivium that Richard explained, the input, the processing, and the output. And there's a lot of sort of words for this: the ingress, engagement, egress, grammar, logic, rhetoric. But in all cases, it's sort of the same idea that you're taking information, you're doing your own processing with it, and then you're doing output in terms of you're maybe doing some writing, or in my case, I've been enjoying making a little bit of video content. I've been building a website. And so having those 3 steps that you do helps you to actually take action instead of just, oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. And just things going in one ear and out the other. So does anyone else have any thoughts on this subject?
I definitely feel like it's really easy to cram too much information into my brain because of how excited I get about the information. And I want to be like a sponge, but even a sponge gets filled up with water at some point.
Absolutely.
Well, I kind of have to tell myself to stop sometimes absorbing information because it gets to be too much.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need a break. You need to just, go outside, catch a nap, whatever it is that you do to chill out and sort of sharpen the saw so you can get back to it a little bit later.
Yeah, it's easy not to want to do that stuff because it's like, oh, I'm not being productive. But at the same time, it's like sometimes that is productive to just take a break
Absolutely. It needs to be done.
and recuperate.
Nice. So the next slide I wanted to highlight was 97. And this is really about getting your potential customers what they want, serve to them on that silver platter. What's the just button? What's the easy button? Does it exist? And sort of what this is highlighting is that in business, our end goal is really to serve the customer and then figure out how to create a mutually beneficial transaction from that. So we want to get the customer their value as simply as possible, and then also get our value that we're asking for in return. This is really focused on providing the value to the customer. It's focused on the output part of the relationship. But the input part of the relationship of asking the fair price, or maybe you're doing some sort of barter, that's important too. Any thoughts on that?
It seems like you first got to go out. Like I'm thinking about the idea of like finding the problem, and for everybody that's different, because you can only solve a certain amount of problems with your skill set. So it takes like some research sometimes to like know what the right questions are to ask and then how to go find the people that have those types of issues, figure out what they're up to, and figure out maybe why it is they're not doing this or that and how you can help facilitate their needs and that kind of stuff. But thinking about doing the research part of it is sometimes a little intimidating because it's like, where do I start? I know there are issues
Absolutely.
out there to be solved, but I can't solve all the issues. So what is it that I'm actually capable of?
Yeah, that's really good, and that ties back into that input output processing type of idea where you're creating some output, you're putting your offer out there into the world, and then your potential customers are going to have feedback. It's like, actually, this doesn't solve my problem. Actually, yeah, I mean, this solves the problem, but that's outside of my price range. And you've got to be able to parse, okay, somebody that's saying it's outside of their price range. Do you really want to lower the price, or maybe you haven't really conveyed the benefits well enough? Or maybe the benefit just isn't there and you need to go back to the drawing board and figure it out some more. So that's another very interesting concept. Cool. So the last slide I wanted to highlight here was this one on 115, and this is sort of the affiliate marketing type of idea. And this is something that I'm exploring because, I work as a software engineer, so I do have some products that I'm involved with, but at the same time, the company owns the product. If I am building things, all the intellectual property I build belongs to them, right? So that's not very motivating to me. I'm not building an asset for myself. I'm building an asset to them and collecting my salary. In my case, some folks are collecting a wage, running their time that way. But if you don't have any products, and there's plenty of folks who are in that space where they've never really experienced product development, which is a hard thing to do. I think one thing that it ties into, Richard mentioned in an earlier lecture, that people pay for getting like 2 to 5 times the value. So if you have a product that's 10% better than the competition, people might not really switch. So if you can find other people who have great products, or, in an ideal case, you can have a team around you, build a firm and build products that way. But if you don't have that, then being an affiliate is really a great opportunity to engage in business when you don't have a product offering of your own. Cool. Anyone else want to chime in about the Friday the 13th lecture? Did anything else stick out to people?
Well, I mean, I'll always go again. My brain was going crazy last night thinking about all these things about, if nothing else, like how can you just like get on the internet and bring a bunch of people together to just make something happen, whether it's like getting people on a video call or sending out a bunch of emails. Because like in my particular situation, I'm thinking about how to organize events and things like that. And it's like, well, I could always try to like take something that I've created and try to put it out there and sell it or whatever. Or you can just sort of talk to a whole bunch of people, get everyone on the same page, and then you all sort of create the product together. And it's something that everybody wants to be involved in. And just, if you're thinking specifically about organizing an event or something, you just get everybody to that place together to sort of make it happen. And that really is interesting in my mind. Um,
Cool.
as far as not necessarily having a particular product per se, but then like the community is the product in a way, and just like
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
a place to go where everybody can work. You get something like that organized, and everybody has a place to go sell whatever it is, whether it's the vendors or the people who pop up the stage or the people who are renting you the property or whatever. Then everyone who's not working, especially with all this COVID shit going on, you give them a place to all just come and work together, doing something that's cool.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're kind of jumping around a bit, but there was that exit and build that I mentioned with Joshua Hale and John Bush, who was sort of the main organizer. And I'm sure that was a great opportunity for them. Josh was out there doing production and DJing. And then John Bush was focused on organizing the event. There were lots of folks that showed up. I'm sure there's folks selling food, showcasing their wares. Maybe they're building some sort of durable goods, like doing construction or
Right.
something. So that's really cool. And then we can also jump into the last night's lecture, which was, like you said, about turning the pixels into profits. And I didn't, have access to the slides at this point, but some points that stuck out to me was formulating an offer and taking it to the market. Again, taking action to prevent overwhelm. That relates back to our avoid overlearning from before. We had a clip by Sabri Subi, who I think I got his ebook, Sell Like Crazy. And then I think last night's clip was more about the power rule and your power 4% of your customers that are really driving your revenue. And then there was the section of, how to get money for your skill set. And two of the things that stuck out that Richard mentioned, one was have a personality. So that's a good first step. And then another is try and identify the problem or the opportunity, the solution, and the benefit. And that goes back to the trivium that I really like, and having things in groups of three. So cool. Any other thoughts about the lecture?
Yeah, I'll chime in. So, oh, sorry.
What's up? Go ahead.
Took a couple notes. Let me see. Yeah, I like the part where Richard was talking about being the lightning rod, like pretty much go to where the customers are at. Don't just be in like the middle of nowhere trying to get a sale. Uh, I liked how he was teaching us how to share the affiliate link. And I like the Sabri Subri clip that he played as well. I need to finish that video, the interview.
Oh, cool. Yeah, right on. Yeah, I really liked that clip in particular. It definitely stood out to me very well last night. So let's see. I also wanted to mention with the Q&A, we had sort of the blueprint call breakdown that we did, and that was pretty cool. I can be hit or miss with my attendance of the Q&A, but I did make sure to make it in there on Sunday, and we'll see about how tomorrow goes if I pop in for a little bit. And then we had a breakout room. Mike had a question, sort of, it was about building community was what I got out of it. And is there any other highlights of the Q&A anyone wanted to bring up?
I suppose I'll chime in. Hey, Taras, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you, Mike?
Pretty good. Sorry, I wasn't able to jump in just as of yet, but now I'm ready. But yeah, just I guess in general, just the Q&A is always something that's one of the favorites because there's so much interaction, and certainly the part with the breakouts. This is one of the things that I think most people don't. Well, I mean, I think we're marketing it at this point, the idea of community, but I think the Q&A is really one of those opportunities where you really get to see the community function. And, like when people bring something up and then there's other people participating in it, the ideas start to flow. And certainly you get to witness Richard's brilliance when it comes to being able to listen and kind of define the problem and then discern what the issues are. And that's always a great exercise in just witnessing how to go about really figuring out and really critically listening for what is the problem. Like I think you were mentioning that a little bit earlier, of being able, or Joseph was, this idea of really finding what the problem is, finding what the pain point is for people, and then being able to offer suggestions. This is, I think, one of the things that's really a critical benefit of being in autonomy and being in this community, is that opportunity to practice that over and over again. Because man, we just don't see that enough. All the things that we've been programmed to believe about sales, it certainly isn't problem solving. It's kind of trickery, and getting that out of our heads and getting into a mode of helping each other, and kind of that Zig Ziglar approach that when you help enough people get to where they want to go, you're going to be able to get where you want to go.
Right on. Yeah, we've
That's
got a
my
little
two
bit of
cents.
Jerry inception. Okay, he fixed it. I had two Jerrys on my screen. A little distracting, but we're good now. Well, cool. Yeah, building community. And kind of what that made me think of is we've got a merger going on basically at work. And there's a little bit of a culture clash with sort of the new parent company. I think they're run out of Boston, coming in, and we're uniting these three smaller companies. And so as we're they're communicating this merger to us, what the new policies are, what's changing and such. And in that communication is an art of sales. And I don't know, the messaging was off. A lot of people were not happy about it, but hopefully, things smooth out a little bit. But I don't know. It's been funny to see some of the reaction to it. Well, cool. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the copywriting clinic with Kara, that I attended. I guess it was also on the 13th, and Jerry and Mike were both there. So I did want to play a little clip from that. We kind of went over my website. That was the part that I was focused on. But Mike also had his notes on autonomy, and Jerry brought his copywriting exercise, as well as Rawad's website, Middle Eats, that we took a look at. So that was pretty cool. I'm going to play this clip from the copywriting clinic where there was a nice little joke and riff from Helen and from Agnieszka talking about expelling our Excel. So I just wanted to play that for a bit.
With an individual who's just having trouble with Excel spreadsheets. I want to expel Excel from my consciousness. You know, do you want to work with someone who's trying to make some sort of corporate thing work, like on a bigger level? Like, what target do you want to focus on that makes it worth your while?
Right. And I think it would be more towards like the business end. You know, doing a one-off thing for somebody might be fine once in a while. And that sounds like more a pro bono thing. And like Excel, I don't really use Excel. So
oh, I can help you expel your Excel issues. I'm certified in Excel. So you just book an appointment with me, Helen. I'll help you out.
Nice.
You know,
well, cool. That was a fun little moment. I hope everyone was hearing the audio okay. Let me know if you're having any trouble with the audio and video. So also Chris and Kara had an interview before. So I just have the link to that. It's truthconduit.com, episode 53 with Kara Shepard-Pote. So cool little interview, just about half an hour, and I enjoyed it. Sort of, we went into what Kara's background is and how she got involved in copywriting and how it helped her to level up her career from where she was at, just doing some writing part-time on the side while she was waitressing, and actually being able to launch a career that she felt good about. So I thought that was a really cool episode. Let's see here.
Yeah, I would just I'd just throw in here on copywriting. You know, the copywriting clinic is certainly one of the another asset that you have within autonomy, and certainly for graduates, because you know, like you experienced, you you brought a project to the table, and we kind of dissected it and went through some of the the do's and don't do's that can truly help you out and kind of engage the audience that you want to talk to. And that is such a big hurdle for a lot of people to get over, is communicating to the right audience, and communicating to the right audience with the right words is so important to success. And if you get it off a little bit, it can be a lot of more trouble and a lot more work than it needs to be. And so having good people, and certainly with Kara and Agnieszka, they're both super talented, and getting their ear, getting their eye on what you're doing, it's just like super accelerated learning. There's nothing better than getting your hands on things and trying it yourself, and then having somebody that really knows what they're doing help you. And to me, it's just a huge asset to autonomy to have that.
Absolutely. And I'm really curious about copywriting. I'm not sure if I necessarily need to get involved in it myself, or if I'm really looking at it more as a consumer, as a potential customer of Autonomy Unlimited, or hiring someone as an individual to do copywriting services for a potential business. So it's something I'm considering, maybe getting into her copywriting course versus, just trying to understand the basics well enough that I can sort of move forward with hiring somebody to help me out with it. So it's definitely very cool. So I posted in the autonomy class chat, Chris and Kara's Truth Conduit episode, my website, and the copywriting clinic link. And then I did want to mention that I sort of went over the video of the copywriting clinic a couple times, and I took away a few call to action, a few action steps that I needed to take on my website. So I already went ahead. I embedded my videos, which was one thing that Kara mentioned, and then clarified my main call to action, which is to sign up for my newsletter. Right now, the link doesn't actually do anything. But that's something that I love to implement, especially as I get ready for PorkFest, and having this website that I can have a QR code and link to people and be able to do some business that way. So these are some of my action steps that I'm still trying to finish up before the end of June. So I've got about a month here. I got a couple of t-shirts last night also for PorkFest, so people can find me. And then I've also been working on a video. Basically, one problem that I've identified and I've been working on the last year of my life is enhancing my cybersecurity by improving my password scheme. So my first video is telling people that their passwords suck, because they do. And so that's basically some of the video production that I'm doing. I'm going to be posting to my website and having the problem and suggesting some solutions and trying to get some feedback from the audience to figure out what they do for their passwords. And maybe I'm totally off base with the suggestions that I'm making. Maybe they're totally impractical for people, but I figured I'd give it a shot. So cool.
Hey, Taras, let me give you a shot at giving us a little bit of value. What do you think of sites like LastPass that kind of collate all your passwords into one place? Do you feel like they're
sure? So I use KeePass, which is a password manager that's free and open source, and I like it. I haven't explored some of these other password managers. Also, your browser, like I use Brave over here, you can store passwords in your browser, but that doesn't really help you, like if you're working with a mobile app. So you kind of need to be able to have things outside of that. And then when you're dealing with proprietary things, it can be hit or miss. For one thing, you're paying for something that's proprietary. And then also, since their source code isn't open, there isn't that second set of eyes necessarily of somebody looking in there and trying to find vulnerabilities, where you have a open source solution. For sure there's going to be a hacker trying to look in there, trying to hack it. And because of that, there's the real-time sort of feedback of the attack and the defense that's constantly happening and constantly being worked on. So that's why I recommend open source stuff, especially when you're dealing with a security critical thing. Cool.
What do you, just a little extra here. I've heard that, just keeping passwords on your smartphone is a lot less secure than like desktops or laptops.
Interesting.
And then what about the operating systems? Like I use Linux. From my understanding, Linux is one of the least kind of vulnerable operating systems. But what are your thoughts on that in regard to
I'd say so. I'd say that just because Windows is more commonly used, as well as Mac, that people are targeting Windows and Macintosh, and as well as Android is another thing that should be mentioned. It powers a lot of smart devices. Of course, Apple, you've got all sorts of Apple TVs and iPhones out there and such. But in terms of any particular thing, I'm not necessarily sure that's necessarily going to do it. I guess if you are storing your passwords on your phone, especially as plain text, then you're very vulnerable, especially since like you want to use two-factor authentication, which is a whole nother topic, but basically that relies on you using your phone. But if you use your phone for both your password and your two-factor authentication, now you have sort of one point of attack rather than the two, which kind of is the point of the multi-factor authentication. But yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention here is I ordered some CBD from our homeboy Daniel from With Cannabis. So I got that in the mail. I think it was on Wednesday. So got some hemp flower. I got some capsules with CBD, and I think it's coconut oil. And we got some cool stickers. I went ahead and put the Grand Theft World one on my refrigerator here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to end up putting some of these maybe on my car. It's kind of a provocative thing to have cannabis on your car as you're driving down the road. So I'll think about that a little bit more, but pretty cool. All right. And then, yeah, I already mentioned the Exit and Build Summit with John Bush and Joshua Hale. I actually met John Bush at PorcFest last year. And one of the things that kind of got me into autonomy is that John seemed like a pretty cool guy, and he was talking to Tom Woods at the Autonomy tent. And I was just thinking, oh, I could learn from these folks. You know, this is something that I'm going to write down to check out later. And here I am. So that was kind of my draw to autonomy, was trying to figure out, you know, PorcFest is cool out in New Hampshire, but what can I do to enhance my freedom here in the Midwest, since I'm not going to be able to drag my friends and family along, even if I do move to New Hampshire, but they could use freedom too. So cool. We also had a Peepline focus group. That name is a bit silly, but we sort of talked with Stephanie on Monday. We had a convention of nerds with, I'm trying to think of who was all in there. I think it was Daniel. It was, I'm trying to remember everyone. We had Cody Meyer. We had Lauren Striggs in the house, I want to say. So a lot of folks there, and we kind of gave our thoughts about the Peep line. We did mention that there's also like a Peep Tech, and then we're not really sure about this whole Peep thing. It sounds a little creepy. For me, I like Minds, which is kind of a similar competitor product, but the user interface we mentioned in the call. And mostly when I'm on Minds or any other social media, I just want to look at memes and cute animals. So I don't really know what they're doing with their social media platform, but we'll see. Maybe it'll end up being cool. We also had Ron Renaud's accountability group. I think that was Tuesday night. Did anyone make it to that? I think Mike and Jerry were there, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
man, Ron's thing is awesome. Go ahead, Jerry.
Awesome.
Oh, I was just saying yes.
Cool. Is there anything in particular that you went over this week that you wanted to shout out or mention?
Well, I would just say that, you know, Ron being a part of autonomy and, you know, having access to his stuff, especially this accountability piece, this course is, I think it's going to make a big difference for those of us that are going through the course and, you know, kind of spreading it out to the rest of autonomy. I think over time, it is going to be part of the culture that, you know, really makes a big difference. Because I think this is something that, you know, to some degree, we've all kind of been conditioned and programmed into a lot of things that are counterproductive. And this is like a perfect example of how you actually apply yourself to, you know, unwinding these ropes that bind us to these false beliefs that, you know, keep us from, you know, being abundant. And, you know, I'm no different than anybody else. I feel like I've got a lot of false beliefs that keep me from being the person that I want to really be. And, you know, I think that's pretty much what, you know, much of the world is suffering from, is they just don't know how to do anything different. They've been dependent on a lot of things that are, counterproductive to making the world a better place. And now it's our opportunity to really do that. And I think Ron is doing an excellent job of putting together a relatively simple program that if you you put some time into it, I feel pretty strongly that it's going to make a big difference.
Cool. Yeah, and I had a lot of thoughts as you were mentioning that. I think that Stefan Versteppen's course is another one that's, and also Tony Myers on the Trivium, Benny Wills, Parrhesia. Those are like a lot of the like critical courses that exist. Lisa's Wealth Battle, also, that one's a little bit different in its structure, but like there's a lot of sort of courses that have been built by autonomy students, current and previous, that I think are going to be, in a sense, part of the canon in terms of like really important pieces of the puzzle for people trying to learn about freedom and how to build it for themselves. So that's been cool to see. I've been a little bit busy on Tuesday nights, sort of hanging out with Lisa in the Wealth Battle thing, and just trying to stay on track with my budgeting. But I'm going to try to catch the replay, or maybe I'll catch the next season of Ron Renaud's course. And I'm curious, maybe I'll stop in this coming Tuesday. There's also been a lot of stuff going on Tuesdays. Things like Tom Woods doing presentations. There was a couple cool ones, and I know that he's coming up as a guest, so I'm excited for that. I keep mentioning him. I'm kind of a casual sort of fanboy of Tom Woods, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think it's at the end of May that we're having him as a special guest, and then again, he is also planning, from what I understand, to make it to PorcFest. So I'm excited to see him there too. Cool. So Mike, you had your leadership, ethics, and organization on Wednesday, which was focused on homeschooling. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had a couple of our autonomy graduates involved in that are very interested in putting forth kind of a homeschooling cornucopia of services and really consolidation of all the things that are within autonomy and interest within autonomy, because there's a bunch that kind of involve this idea of homeschooling and just really breaking from the system, similar to John Taylor Gatto's story of how he went about educating children. I think that's certainly a motivating factor for a lot of us in autonomy, is to bring back learning as something that you can love to do. And for the most part, the system has made learning something that most people hate, because it's so confusing and stupefying in so many different ways, the way that they put it together in the educational system. And so this is really the opportunity, really the beginning of the opportunity. And Adam James, one of our other graduates, had put together something called the One Room Schoolhouse. And although it's been out there for I think a little bit over a year, it's been underutilized. And now with our new crop of students coming in, and they're energized and willing to do stuff that can bring that thing to a new level. And so it's really a call out to the entire community of autonomy, to really, if there's anything that you can do to help the young people, the children of autonomy, to make it easier on them, because luckily for them, they haven't witnessed most of the programming that we've been subject to, and so they have kind of a leg up on a lot of us as far as the the amount of viruses, I guess, that we've got in our heads, and false beliefs and stuff that have been programmed into our heads that they don't have to deal with. And that kind of learning is really in a freedom kind of environment is what made places like the United States of America, the place that it became, the incredible economy that it was. And so, we've kind of got that opportunity to do that within our own community, is to build that kind of learning environment and free learning environment where the sky is the limit. And man, there is just so much information out there, and there's so many willing people. And I would encourage every one of us that is in autonomy to really, bring forth what is it that you can give to other people, because certainly, there's children out there that are certainly interested in every aspect of what it takes to be an adult in this world. And we've got to have them prepared, because, unfortunately, the vast majority of people that are going to the education system that's out there are not being prepared to be adults. And they're just going to be subject to, dependency on things that are not in their best interest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think actually in the lecture last night, Richard mentioned adulting, and people are taking classes to learn how to do basic stuff, how to, even Wealth Battle, some of the things we're starting off with there is just like, okay, how do you do a budget? Because that's not something that you really learn.
They just don't teach you those valuable things that you need, in school.
Yeah. And, I've always been good with my finances, but I do things by feel. So that's been fine, but like learning to formally do it, I think it is an important skill, even for me, definitely for a lot of people, because a lot of people are just kind of underwater with their finances, and just, they teach you the algebra, all your x plus y equals 98, but like, how do you actually do the numbers of what you're doing with your dollars? So even just that.
Yeah, a lot of people are, being encouraged to buy, things on credit, buy new cars on credit, buy new houses on credit, buy everything on credit. And, personal debt is increasing tremendously. And, a lot of people are thinking, well, if I just borrow now, things will be better in 6 months, and I can pay for it. And unfortunately, there's no guarantee that that's what's going to happen. And
then the next crisis hits, monkeypox, whatever.
I don't even want to guess on what the next thing is, but I'm
Right.
sure there's some scam ahead that's going to entrap a lot of people into another disaster.
Yeah, we're kind of just lurching that from crisis to crisis, in debt up to our eyeballs. And so you've got, like John Bush and his exit and build summit, that's what you got to do. You got to get out of this crazy system and build something for yourself and for your family. And that's really, it ties into a lot of what we're working on in autonomy, what we're seeing in like the homeschooling movement, building new social media networks, accountability. There's so much here in that vein. So the last event that I wanted to mention was Daryl Becker's Emotional Kung Fu, which I haven't really checked out. I'm a fan of martial arts. I did Kung Fu actually when I was a little kid for a little bit, kind of at the YMCA, and it was a little wacky, but it's kind of fun too. And I love those old, martial arts movies with Jackie Chan and whatever. So that stuff sounds fun. I'm not really sure what kind of emotional kung fu they're doing over there. So do we have anybody who is in that who can enlighten us?
Well, from my understanding, I'll just throw it out here.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to jump in, feel free to correct me. But I've attended Daryl's class, but I understand that it's a lot of the nonviolent communication, or at least it's based on some of the nonviolent communication stuff. And if you're familiar with that, it's about kind of identifying needs again. And, there's a great demonstration in one of the videos that we get in autonomy. I hope it's still in there. This idea of like a pipe, and you're putting handkerchiefs in one side, and the other person is putting their handkerchief on the other side, and this is kind of the basis for the idea of being able to communicate with each other, is allowing them to get their handkerchief over to you before you stick your handkerchief into the pipe, and so you don't just jam everything up. It seems like such a simple thing, but yet for the most part, that's what people are having a problem with, is not being able to listen to each other, not to be able to receive the information and then send the information that's valuable feedback. And because of that kind of misunderstanding, and again, because most of the institutional schools don't teach this stuff, it's people falter because of it.
Yep. And there's so much of that with the political parties that start with letters D's and R's, and some of the other ones too that we see over here in America. Just people talking past each other, and there's just so much of that going on. And once you step outside of that, you kind of look at it, and it's just kind of funny, but it is also dangerous. We've got a lovely civil war going on in Europe, and it's not cool. People, I've got family on both sides of that. I don't want to delve too deep into it, but that first month of the Ukraine-Russia war, I was just feeling awful and freaking out. But now I've kind of accepted it, that this is the situation, that cousins want to shoot at each other, and I'm on the other side of the planet. I'm not in control. God's in control. Just we're leaving in his hands, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And hopefully, it ends up not being as bad as the first, the previous times there was that kind of strife, probably in the 30s, with, the communists going through and killing just tons of people. And there's plenty of examples like that before.
But it's a great example of how people are unable to communicate, because
absolutely.
I think both sides of this conflict, there are things that are positive, and there's things that are negative. And because people are kind of segmented into their own echo chambers, they're basically looking at all the good things on their side and none of the bad things, and none of the good things on the other side and all of the bad things. And because people can put them into those frames of mind, they're locked into a prison of being in perpetual conflict.
Absolutely.
And it's really up to each of us to understand that, like, communication means looking at the positives and the negatives, and then being able to talk through those things without getting into an emotional state that that basically shuts off our neocortex and our logical thinking. That if we can do that, and I mean, that's one of the values, I think, of what Daryl is bringing to the table, is that opportunity, as well as what Tony's course is as well, is kind of understanding the logic between things. You start to step back from the immediate emotional response and start using your neocortex, which for most of us, that's something that's very valuable.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And yep,
I would add to
the
that
world's
too.
Crazy. Yeah, go
I
on,
would add
Joseph.
to that the idea of just how we create with our words. We've got this Ukraine-Russia conflict going on, And we keep hearing even people in the freedom communities, you know, saying things like World War III, it's on the horizon, here it comes, get ready for it, as if it's some kind of inevitability, as if there are no people out there who are trying to not allow this stuff to happen. So we have to be conscious of what we say and how we actually can bring things about just by repeating something over and over and over and over again, because thoughts translate into words, translate into actions. And we got to be careful about what we sort of bring to people's consciousness through just saying things sometimes. Not that the words themselves are going to, you know, me saying World War III is not going to make World War III happen, but you keep circulating that idea. People get used to the idea. And then before you know it, people are going, oh, well, here it comes, you know, and then it's right there.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
something to
And,
think about.
you know, it's easy to get desensitized to that sort of thing. And then you've got nuclear weapons pointing at each other. And then it just takes a little technical glitch and one goes off. And, you know, stuff's really hit the fan. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, but definitely, you know, it's up to us to really be promoting this this
The
message of peace.
alternatives.
Yeah.
Promote
Well,
what's
I mean,
happening that's not that stuff. You know, there are other things happening. Some people keep talking about food shortages. All right, that's good. Let's be aware of that. But let's also talk about the people who are actively engaged in growing their own food and building communities. You know, draw attention to that stuff. People want solutions. You know, that's kind of where
Yep.
I'm at. You spend so many years filling your brain with what's wrong, and then at a certain point, you've been asked the question too many times, what are you doing about it? And that's the kind of stuff then you start to think about is, all right, well, what's actually happening? Who's being proactive about fighting this stuff? And it's not like a fight with guns, but it's literally a fight with farms. You know, it's a fight with homesteading and communities and homeschooling and stuff like that. That is the war, you know, and we're fighting it our own way. So draw people's attention to that stuff so that when they come to need it, then they know where to find those alternatives. Then when the food shortages happen, they can say, oh, well, I know these people over here who are trying to avoid that, who are taking proactive steps to create something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that reminds me of, I think I was talking to Stephanie in a breakout room, and she mentioned these victory gardens and how
Food
people were,
forest.
you know, gardening during, I think it was World War II, with the shortages, and sort of bringing that back. You know, just I'm in an apartment, so it's hard for me to garden, but I've got a community garden I could do. I could, you know, get some plants for the summer and just put them out on my windowsill or whatever it is, my balcony, and do it that way. So
Yeah, I
everyone
mean,
can
if
I
get
would
you
just,
get
involved.
like you got like 7, 8, 10 of your buddies to all start growing little things here and there, before you know it, you've got a little food adventure going on and everyone can share. And when things happen, someone can be like, oh, I've got a watermelon. Oh, I've got some peppers. Hey, I've got this, you know, and you bring it all
Yeah.
together and who knows what could happen to just a little group. You know,
Yeah,
you
and
don't have
maybe
to.
the food shortages don't happen. We just all have a cool little veggie feast, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's not really a food shortage, and they keep trying to put that in your mind. Oh, just wait for it. Here it comes. It's right there. It's right there. You're looking at it. But then, you know, if you're building these alternative communities and practicing things that are counter to the culture, then that doesn't necessarily have to happen to you if you're prepared in that kind of way.
Cool. Well, that's pretty
yeah.
much what I
Well,
have
I just
prepared.
wanted
What
to
other
add,
thoughts do you have?
I was just going to add to what Joseph was saying about the, you know, the words and narratives that we, you know, that we broadcast out of our own mouths. You know, that's certainly one of the things that I think autonomy is really good for is instead of worrying about what's going on in the rest of the world, what's going on in our lives. If, you know, that's kind of one of the things that I think autonomy provides is every single day something where we can have narratives going on about things going on in our lives, where we can be talking about, you know, what we're doing to improve our own lives. What are other people in our community doing to improve their lives? What are we doing to improve each other's lives? You know, those are the kind of narratives that we need to be really broadcasting. And I think if we do a good job of that, the word of mouth is going to get out, you know, and people are just going to be attracted because, hey, we're the only people that seem to have a smile on our face, and our problems seem to be being resolved without us, you know, whining and complaining and you know, asking for the government to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you show people through example. You don't necessarily have to present the whole ideology to them right up front, because people are really hesitant to accept ideologies. But if you can show them what is actually going on and present it to them as solutions, then they can get involved somehow, and it sort of creates a natural transition in their minds from one thing to the other. And you don't necessarily have to explain too much necessarily, you know, like, because you're just doing it.
It's the low pressure zone, as Richard puts it, you know, creating that low pressure zone where people just, you know, kind of radiate towards it because it's low pressure.
It's clearly better. It's like obviously better. And then when they see that it's obviously better, they're drawn to that because, oh, what's happened over here is just a world of darkness and bitterness, and we don't want that. But what are you guys doing? Oh, you're doing something that looks amazing. You're all helping each other and sharing things, and that's a much better way to be.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And just to take it back a little bit, you know, there's everybody waving around a Ukrainian flag and saying sanction Russia. And it's just like, hey, I'm a real Ukrainian. What exactly are you doing for me with your flag?
Yeah, people are having sports events for Ukraine, like, oh, let's play a giant game and get everybody distracted, but it's for Ukraine. Like, what does that even do? I don't get it. Oh, like here in Portland, they had the two local soccer teams play each other, and it was some event for Ukraine. I'm like, that, like, what, I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
that helps necessarily.
Yeah, if they're raising money and getting it to a good nonprofit, but you know, I know Richard mentioned, you know, some of these NGOs, we don't know what they're doing. Are they helping anybody?
Yeah, this was Major League Soccer, so I'm not entirely sure how trustworthy that organization is, sort of in general, but
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they could be raising money, and that's all fine and good. Raise money, sure, but you know, are we even on the right side of that? You know, I feel like we're being fed the line of who we should support. Like Russia's the bad guy, Ukraine's a good guy, but are they? Who, like, do we really know? I feel like there are a lot of pieces in my mind that are missing.
It's very opaque. Yeah, it's hard to know what the exact truth is. And there's people on the ground that feel either way. There's, you know, the Ukrainian nationalist side. There is this more pro-Western side, and there's also a pro-Eastern sort of socialist reunification faction. It's a minority, but they have a perspective too. So who's right, who's wrong? I don't know necessarily. I have my own perspective, which is just, you know, Svoboda, mir, процветание. So that means freedom, peace, and prosperity. That's what I want to see in Eastern Europe. And, you know, is fighting a war and sanctioning Russia the way to do it? Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. And so I'm not really sure myself, and that's just how it is.
In a war, nobody really wins.
Yeah, it's very rare that there's really a good guy in a war. There's definitely plenty of bad guys, but finding a good guy is hard to do.
Yeah, I feel like there are wars that are justified, and I haven't probably seen one in my entire lifetime. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think these wars are justified. So I don't think we should support either side of it, really. We should support peace, like you're saying, and, you know, that should be our standpoint no matter what. So, like, we don't want people dying. We don't want the Russian people dying either, just because their government sucks and is corrupt. You know, we don't want to put that on their people because we don't want anybody putting that on us. We're not the ones fighting that war.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. You don't want
end up being victims in the whole thing.
Yeah. It could blow up in our face, you know, here in America in 20 years when these socialists are are getting their hands on some bombs and attacking Europe with it. So you have no idea, or the nationalists are causing trouble. We have no idea how it's going to play out in 5, 10, 20 years. So it's playing with fire with all of the war stuff, but that's how that is. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Anything that stuck out to people in the lectures, in the Q&As, in the events? Anything else somebody has thoughts on, what they're excited for in the coming week?
Well, I'll just throw out something for the Great Books Club. It meets twice a month on Saturdays. I think it's the second and fourth Saturdays. But currently, we're doing the works of Aristotle. I think we're posterior analytics at the moment. But we've been doing that. Daniel McCarthy is the leader of that, and Daniel is amazing dude, man. He's so well read and so well informed. It's really quite an event to go to. But understanding kind of the basis and roots of Western philosophy, through reading the great books is something that we're doing, and it's just one more opportunity within autonomy to get and gain perspective and awareness on what is really going on. Because if we read Plato and the Republic, and for the most part, what you see playing out these days is pretty much right out of those pages. It's like, man, this playbook is pretty freaking old. When are we going to figure it out? The masses don't seem like they're ever going to figure it out. And I don't think they're going in the right direction to comprehend what's going on. But the reality is the playbook is out there. And it is something that we can understand and we can have a discussion about. And it can lead to, new ideas of how do we get around the problems that they're putting in front of us. But
this is something you do regularly? It's like once a week type of thing?
It's the Great Books is every other Saturday, the second and fourth Saturdays, I believe.
Is that something you post on Discord?
I think it's on it's in the autonomy calendar for the student events.
Cool. I'm gonna look out for that.
Cool. That's exciting. Anyone else have any thoughts? Anything you want to shout out?
I wanted to say something about the food shortages.
Yeah, go ahead.
Support your local farmers. If you can't grow a garden, find a farmer, find a CSA. I've noticed that a lot of this food shortage stuff and all these fires and stuff that have been happening at food production, a lot of it is conventional. There's only been one facility that's organic that has had a fire. And so, organic is also part of the way that I think we can achieve health autonomy, and like part of the way that I woke up was realizing like, oh, okay, a lot of the subsidized cash crops of like wheat, corn, and soy, a lot of them are grown together, processed together. A lot of them are sprayed with Roundup. Like, how much of our brains are messed up? We're not able to think clearly because we're eating shitty food, So.
Cool.
Yeah, speaking of farming, I'm in a greenhouse right now.
Oh, nice. Well, cool.
Yeah, and that was something that I really resonated with in the Q&A, the breakout session last week. And when have you, chosen like your values over finances, over making a lot of money? And I resonate with that because I've really realized as I've gotten older, like I have to do work that I take pride in and that I really value. And so like I work on an organic farm, and then I also work for organic wholesale produce distributor, and we're actually also a farmer cooperative. So like all the farmers have joined together to support one another and support our local food system. And so, you know, it's like I could be working somewhere in like a restaurant or something, making a lot of tips and stuff. But like one thing that I really realized when I started looking at my health is like, I want to know where my food's coming from. Like, can I pronounce the ingredients of what's in my food, you know? And so it's like, I take a lot of pride in like working for farms, helping my local food system. And I don't know, my mind just kind of went blank, but that was kind of the gist of what I wanted to say.
Where's your greenhouse? Where are you doing all this?
I'm in Sonoma County, California.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice. Yeah, I think that being able to understand what's in your food, if nothing else, that's a great first step in terms of sort of getting your health under control if you are going through a lot of health issues. Is just figure out what is going on with my body. What am I putting in here? What is this stuff? So, yeah.
Something else they don't teach you a lot of in school.
Yeah.
What's going on in your body? I didn't
Right,
learn
because
any.
then everyone's questioning what's in this the cafeteria stuff. What's this government cheese all about?
God.
Totally. And it's like, I'm a
Yeah.
nutritionist also. And like part of why I joined Autonomy is to help people learn health autonomy. Like, be your own authority figure. Like, stop looking outside of yourself for, you know, doctors and media to tell you what to do with your health. Like, tune in. If you have brain fog, like, oh, maybe you have a wheat allergy, maybe you're eating too much dairy, you know, and then it's like you get that out of your system and it's like the whole world can open up to you and you start to realize like, okay, they subsidize wheat and farmers get the shitty end, the short end of the stick. And then like they turn the wheat into all these other different products like maltodextrin and even like the adhesive and like band-aids and stuff. It's just like they stuff it into everything, you know? So it's like, I think Henry Kissinger even said like, if we control the food, we can control the people, you know? And it's like, food is medicine. Like, we feed ourselves 3 times a day. Like, we can change ourselves drastically just by changing the food and supporting our local food economy.
Right on. All right. Any other thoughts? Well, all right. I think we'll call it for the episode then. That's all for this week's episode of Do It Live Autonomy Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for Jerry for helping me with co-hosting. And please join again next week. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. And if you want to know how you can get Autonomy, go to getautonomy.info and tell them Taras sent you. That is all for this week's episode. I'm going to play our lovely outro music and maybe we'll hang out for a bit and just chit chat a little bit after. But let's see here. Got to find the screen share button. There it is. That looks good. I've got the sound on and let's play it.
Ready, set, go.